And we're live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into today's episode, I want to give a quick shout out to Grind Clothing Co. We had our first merch drop a couple weeks ago. If you want to find that link, you can go in the description of this video and in our YouTube bio, and you can see Grind times Revved Up, and you will see sweatshirts, t-shirts, and what's it called? Like crop tops, yeah. Right? With our first drop. And if you can kind of see a tease of it a little bit, but we have our second drop coming after our trip to Detroit, February 4th and 5th. We will be teasing it in the vlogs to come. But a quick question I wanted to ask you, Ryan, was when you were kind of the master behind our merch, when you were creating this merch, what did you take into consideration?
I just kind of wanted to base it off of who we were alongside of Pistons history, really. Right. So like, what have we seen on their jerseys or warm-ups or like just apparel in general? Right. And take that all together and then just create something special.
Right. Try to kind of pay homage to the past Detroit Pistons style, yeah. Right? So Ryan is the owner of Grind Clothing Co. So shout out Grind because they are our official merch sponsor, and they'll probably be a sponsor for years to come. So we are very happy to partner with Grind. So shout out Ryan and Grind Clothing Co. You can also go check out their drops at what website?
You can check out the Instagram. So it's grind_clothing co.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they'll have all the links there, and you kind of see past drops right in that feed. So shout out Grind. We are in week 12, I believe. Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. Week 12. This week we are going to be breaking down Killian Hayes and his production these last couple months. And then the trade deadline is also quickly approaching, February 9th to be exact. So we're going to also kind of get into maybe some possible trade rumors with Killian. What's something that you kind of broke down getting into this episode, Ryan?
I kind of went the approach of what does Weaver think before anything else.
Right.
And I found a little nugget. Okay. A piece of gold.
Drop some knowledge.
Okay. So this is quoting from him.
Yeah.
I said from day one that Killian needed to get Americanized with his game, as well as with the culture and understanding how the American game is and the mentality.
Right.
And that's a big thing for Killian because he's never had to play against Americans. He only spent 1 year at ULM in the EuroLeague, and it wasn't even a year. He played 10 games. Right. And in those 10 games, he played 268 minutes, had 128 points, 23 rebounds, 62 assists, 2 blocks, 15 steals, and shot 45%. In just 10 games, that's pretty darn good.
Dude, that is pretty legit.
In the EuroLeague, yeah, it's a smaller league, but compared to the NBA, it's the tier below it, really.
Right.
And so the amount of talent that he has to play against there, and then the fact that Killian is still really young too, we should not be giving up on him just yet.
Yeah.
His second part of it is he quoted that I'm old enough to have kids who have gone through college and ones that are still there, and everyone that you send away doesn't come back their freshman year a changed person. Sometimes it's their sophomore, junior year. It just takes time.
Right.
So to me, it just took Killian a couple of years. Now he comes back from his junior year from spring break, and it's like, oh, wow, my child has changed.
Right.
It just took that. Sometimes it takes a year, comes back in the summer, and it's like, wow, he's really changed. I'm proud of him. He takes the trash out and makes his bed. Not all kids do that right away. This kid had to get Americanized. His growth has been different. I never wavered on the person or the player.
Dude, is Troy Weaver not the man?
Yeah.
He is the best, dude. I love Troy Weaver.
Yeah, and the key thing out of that, I never wavered on the person or the player.
Right.
Meaning, if there's any trade speculation out there, that just shut it down.
Pretty much.
He's not getting traded.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I could see it happening is if Casey, for some reason, has a vendetta against Killian.
I don't think
but
he
that's
does.
not the way it is.
No.
You know, I think Dwayne Casey has also defended Killian time and time again. And so it really is nice to see kind of Troy Weaver, like, because he's not even always the most lengthy in word kind of guy. Like, he's usually keep it simple, but he obviously has got to be somewhat passionate about Killian to give a quote like that.
Yeah.
I love it. You know, you brought it up. You got it positive right off the bat. And I like that, Ryan. I like that. I kind of have to switch it up.
Yeah, you want to go negative?
I want to go negative a little bit. Not anything too crazy.
Yeah.
But the Paris game.
Yep.
Yes, it was a specialty game where all of the typical things that come in on a game day are all thrown for a loop, right? Typically, NBA players get to sleep in, go to shoot around in the afternoon. But when you're in Paris, all of that's thrown for a loop. The routine is off.
Yeah.
I think that definitely had a factor to do with the Killian game. I think another thing is he just, I think nerves are a huge part of his performance. We know going into that Paris game that his grandma was going to be watching him for the first time in person as a Detroit Piston. The crowd goes crazy for his introduction at the game. So a lot of fans, a lot of people that have probably been watching him since middle school, watching his mixtapes from Paris. So I kind of correlate this game to like his first 15 games as a Piston.
Yeah.
We saw him look like old Killian. I'm interested to see when he gets back from this shoulder injury, what his comeback looks like.
Yeah.
You kind of can't really judge him off his first 2 games coming off that injury. You kind of have to give guys some time to heal up, and because even if guys are back from an injury, doesn't mean that they're 1,000%. So we won't judge him off his first couple games right off the bat. But if we get to 7, 8 games and Killian is still looking rough, it's going to hurt my soul, man. It's going to hurt my soul. The other thing too, sorry, I'm talking a lot.
No, you're good.
The other thing too is now on the other hand, Killian's been playing really well. We're really happy with his game. He's showing that he can reach 26 points. He's showing that he can get 15 assists every other game. He's showing that he's an elite passer. What does that mean when Cade gets back?
Yeah. So
say Killian comes back from his injury and he goes off the rest of the season. He's showing some consistency, kind of what he's done in the last month and a half, excluding the Paris game. When Cade comes back next season, what does that look like? Is Killian too good to be a starter? I mean, to be a bench player? What do you do with Killian when Cade's back?
See, this may shock you, but I would have Killian as a starter, but coming off the bench, meaning he's getting starting minutes, but he's the 6th man. He's going to be the first guy off the bench, and he's going to get the same amount of time as like Cade or anybody else. But that's because we need him out there, because in these stretches of games, like the month of January in general, excluding the Paris game, he's played great.
Absolutely.
His numbers are there, and he's playing like 30 minutes a game since Cade's been out. And I don't think that's going to change next year when Cade is back. And honestly, even if we have a guy like Wemby or we have a completely healthy young team, I don't think his minutes are going to change that much. Because he's proving that he can play, and he's still incredibly young. So the fact that this is really his 2nd year in the league, let's be honest. Let's be realistic here a little bit, because that first year, I don't count it because he played only like 20 games.
Right.
And then he got injured. So I count this as a 2nd year for him. And he came into the league at 19 years old.
Yeah.
He is still really young. And so the fact that he took this big of a jump in quote unquote his 2nd year, like, that's really good. Yeah.
And it's showing the brains behind Troy Weaver.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we saw it with Tyrese Halliburton, right? And with Sacramento, he get traded to the Pacers very early in his career, maybe too early. The Sacramento Kings might be kicking themselves. What if that was us with Killian a year ago? We're just like, oh, Troy Weaver's like, bye-bye. And then Killian goes to New York or so on and so forth and starts killing it. That's why I like, you can see how smart Troy Weaver is and how bright he is by seeing the way they're treating Killian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, just let's say that trade did happen last year and Killian is going off like he is currently. It'd be very, very sad because that would just show you how many Pistons we've given up on.
Right.
Not just Killian aside. There's been countless others that we've given up on. Like a big one I'd say is Sekou. We did get, I love him, okay?
I know you're always vouching for him.
We did give up on him. Yeah. We really did.
Yeah.
But I don't think Weaver would have drafted him at the end of the day if he was in that position to draft Sekou. I don't think he would have. But still, it just shows you what patience does.
Right.
Because when you're patient and you trust the process, as Joel Embiid would say, look at Philadelphia right now. They're one of the best teams in the East.
Yep,
one of the best teams in the NBA. But that's because they just keep at it and work their tails off. And they're patient the entire time. And if we're not patient with Killian, then he's going to get kicked to the curb. And next thing you know, he's going to be like another Reggie Jackson situation. Right. We cut Reggie Jackson and he signs with the Clippers, and the Clippers all of a sudden, everybody talks about him being the next stud, and it's like, seriously right now?
Yeah. Right. It hurts. It hurts. The other thing about Killian is I'm worried, like with his Paris game, gets under the bright lights and just didn't put up quite the goose egg, but kind of a goose egg. Mm-hmm. That kind of worries me, like when playoff time might come around, because nerves are something that your skill can get better, but nerves never really go away.
Yeah.
I mean, there's guys like Josh Allen who say for the NFL, for the Buffalo Bills, says he throws up before every game.
Yeah.
And he's been in the league for 3 years now. I mean, that you'd think nerves would get trained to just kind of fall away, but it's built in human DNA. So that the nerves thing kind of worries me, because Killian's showing that, well, obviously, since he's been drafted, he's built now. I mean, the dude's like muscular out of his mind. Mm-hmm. And then he's showing that he's refined his passing game. His jumper is getting better. But what about those nerves? Those nerves might who knows what happens with that?
I have a take with that. Just look at the month of January alone. Look at what he did against large market teams and look at what he did against small market teams.
Yeah, I know.
He played out of his mind against small market teams.
Yeah.
The large market teams, a.k.a. Chicago, the Paris game, New York, Philadelphia. Philly is a medium-sized market team.
Mm-hmm.
But
fans are crazy.
Yeah. But like Golden State to start off the month, like the games, the stats, when you look at them, it's like, ooh, that's not a good game, Killian.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes off against a small market team. You're like, whoa, I love Killian.
Yeah.
So maybe it's more of the fact of the games being talked about nonstop because you're playing up against one of the more popular, historically good franchises in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, great, the pressure's all on me now because Cade's out. Mm-hmm. I'm the main ball handler. Ivy is a good point guard, but he's still young.
Not a true point guard.
Yeah. So Killian's probably going, crap, I really need to hone in and be the provider in this game and try and take control.
Yeah.
And he doesn't need to do that. Because when you have Bogey, and you have Sadiq, you even have Ivy and Duran and Stu.
Got a lot of help.
Yeah, you got a lot of help. And even on the bench, you have Alec Burks, Corey Joseph, all these vets.
Mm-hmm.
They know what to do. So I think if you just look at the month of January, I think it really is a mindset for Killian.
Yeah.
It is nerves. Because against small market teams, he is perfectly fine. He plays a really solid game every single night against small market teams.
Mm-hmm.
But then when the lights are on him, he just panics.
Yeah.
And it's not there.
So I think that's definitely a point to be made. It's just difficult because it's like that's something that's it doesn't really ever go away. When the mics go hot for this podcast, you always just get a little, a little like on your edge of your seat. That never really goes away. We're in episode 12. So it's just something that I thought of, and, time will tell. I guess, we're still young, right? So maybe when you mature, it gets better. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see though. And see, it just seems like, his first 15 games, those are the first 15 games of your NBA career are very crucial. Yeah. A lot of times, especially from a fan's perspective. And then the Paris game, a lot of, so it's interesting take. We'll see. The future will tell.
And honestly, though, I think the Paris game was probably the biggest game of his career.
Probably because he didn't play in that Rising Stars game that Sadiq and Stu and Cade played in.
And the reason why I would say it probably was his biggest game of his career is because it's in his homeland.
Yeah.
He's from there.
Yeah.
He's the kid.
National television.
Yeah. And it's like that game's getting televised everywhere. Even if it is the Pistons and we suck right now, it's getting televised everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. Yeah. Adam Silver is there. Yeah. Magic Johnson.
Little baby.
Yeah. Everybody is there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like the cameras and eyes are all on you. Your country is like, oh, he's a stud. He's going to go off. And then he does that. And you're like, oh no. Is Killian okay?
Yeah, right.
Somebody needs to check in on Killian.
Yeah.
See how he's doing.
Right.
Because
right.
I think the pressure just got to him.
And going into an injury too. He was out last game. Just for the sake of conversation, I do want to talk about the trade talk just because the deadline is coming up. It's relevant right now. One of the most significant trades I saw was on NBAinsider.com, and it was a Kendrick Nunn trade. But obviously, he just went to Washington Wizards. So that was really the only, it was Kendrick Nunn and a second-round pick for Killian Hayes. That was the only thing I saw that was actually legit. Like they were saying they were talking to Weaver. But obviously that's not going to happen. Nope. So I think that really just proves the point that there's more than likely not going to. I'd be shocked if there's a trade.
Yeah.
While I was brainstorming, thinking about trades and who would I kind of want for Killian, I thought of this idea.
Oh, yeah.
My idea is Nerlens Noel and Killian Hayes for Domantas Sabonis.
No.
But wouldn't he kind of fit the Pistons? I'm just trying to. I'm not saying I'm dying on this hill, this mountain, but he would kind of fit the Pistons because he is a center, but you could push him to power forward. He would just take minutes away from Stu. That's the only issue. He'd take
minutes. He has a high salary hit.
That's true.
He's getting up there in age. And Sacramento is having a historically good season this year.
For them, yeah.
Yeah, so...
And he's a big part of it.
Yeah, he really is. He's a factor. I just don't know. See, I'm trying to go the Batman-Robin thing, but I don't know who Batman and Robin would be on that team.
I think
Batman could be De'Aaron Fox.
Right, that's who I would say.
But at the same time, you take away... Sabonis, that team is like they were last year, not very good.
Yeah.
So then you'd argue Sabonis is Batman.
And then maybe Darian's Robin.
Yeah.
I mean, you could make an argument for that.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Kings fans would look at it like that, though. I think Darian's their guy.
Yep. But no, I love Killian. Weaver, just from that quote alone, loves Killian.
Yes.
So we're not giving up on him anytime soon. So don't worry about that. But let's say a trade does happen.
Right.
I'm expecting at least a first-round pick for him.
Yeah.
Because, and that's not asking for too much.
No.
But I don't think you can trade him. He's just too young still.
I know.
And the fact that he's doing this in year 3, year 2, in that range, and he's still really young, he's showing that he can play.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter that it's like a small market or large market team.
Nope.
Like Philly had 26 points in 34 minutes. San Antonio, 18 points, 7 assists. Dallas, 22 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists. Shot 76% in that game. Like, there's games this season where it's like, wow, this kid is special. He is something else. I can see why Weaver drafted him where he did.
Right.
But then there are games where against Chicago or Orlando or Philly or Utah, and it's like, ooh, Killian, what were you doing?
Yeah, it's tough to watch.
But when you think about it, it has to be the mindset for him. Because mentality is everything in sports.
Big.
It's everything. If you go into a game saying you can't do it, guess what? You're not going to do it.
Yeah.
You're going to suck.
Yep.
But if you just go in blind saying, like, I got this, you're going to go out there, have a solid game. It doesn't mean you're going to go off and drop 20 or 30. You can still have a solid night.
Right.
But I think if he focuses on who he is as a person and saying, you got this, Killian, I can go out and drop 20.
Yep.
Almost anybody can drop 20 in the NBA now because nobody plays defense.
Yeah.
But
very few teams.
Yeah. So Killian just needs its mindset over anything. And I think if he can pass his fears of the mindset,
right,
I think he's going to be just fine because he's shown time and time again, even though it's not consistent, he's shown time and time again that he can go out there and have a great night.
Yeah. And he's got the skill. He's got that raw talent. He's refined his game in a lot of ways compared to that 2020 season, which is great to see. And if anybody ever, like, say we pick up Wemby next year and he's not doing what we expected, I'm going to bring out that Troy Weaver quote because that's a great quote. It's worded so great how, like, the 4 years at college, you know, someone might go out. I loved that. I love that quote. So I think that's definitely something I'm going to use from years to come. I think if I was a GM, I'm giving somebody maybe 4 years, 3 years.
Yeah, because when you're drafting a kid who's 18, 19.
Yeah, it's just like college.
Yeah, you can't expect them to be a stud right away.
Yeah.
They're not even in their 20s. And you're supposedly giving up on them. That just, you can't give up on a kid.
Yep.
You have to guide them.
I agree. Any last points you wanted to make about this week's podcast, Ryan?
Killian Hayes, we love you.
I love that, man. Did you write him a love letter?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Okay, let's get into it.
That would have been too far.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
but no, we do. I am a big Killian fan.
Yep.
I am known for being tough on Pistons players. It's just because it's built in my mentality of growing up a Pistons fan.
Yep.
I've seen people do well, not great.
Yep.
I've seen people do well and really bad. And so I can be tough on people, but we are big Killian guys in the end. So Killian, we're there for you. We're your number one supporters through and through. We appreciate you. And if you want to hop on the pod, I know we're a small podcast, but Killian, hop on the pod and let's talk about it. Let's get down to the nit and grit. Let's talk about your favorite restaurants in Detroit.
Teach us some French.
Oh, that would be cool. Killian, come on, man. Get on the pod, and we'd love to talk to you and become your best friend.
Oh, yeah.
Be our third on the podcast. We got an extra mic, man.
We do.
Come on. So before we wrap up today's episode, shout out Grind Clothing Co. Also, shout out our editor, Dave Starr. He is Dave Starr Photo Media, so you can find him on Facebook if you want. If you like the way our videos are edited, go hit him up. He'll gladly work for you and put him to work. He needs some extra work. You know, I see him sitting around the office sometimes. Like, he just needs to get put to work. So, shout out Dave Starr, our editor. You're the OG. We appreciate you. And thank you for everybody listening. We see the consistent numbers on our YouTube. So thank you. Make sure to like and subscribe. And follow us on Instagram at revved.up906. You can also find us on TikTok.
Yep.
And we will see you guys in the next Revved Up recap. Peace.